right now, every female competitor in women's sport in the world should just refuse to compete against trans athletes, not because they're transphobic, because they want to protect women's rights to fairness. And if they all did that one day, this ends.
I 100% agree. And I didn't agree for the longest time. I thought women shouldn't have to boycott, but I can proudly say I've changed my mind on that. That is what it's going to take. That's what we need to see. And you're right, courage is contagious. I certainly believe that. But so is hopelessness. And so I think if we remain hopeless, like we're seeing so many women, so many people do, that's just as contagious as courage.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to bring this story to your attention because I do think it starts a very good conversation, a conversation that we should all be having when it comes to women's sports and female athletes who willingly compete with transgender athletes. Now there's a difference between female athletes who were caught off guard, who weren't even given any notice, any warning, who found themselves unsuspectingly in a competition with a biological male, who found themselves wrestling, rolling on the ground, mid-fight, realizing that it's a dude.
So let's kind of get into my match and my thoughts during it was happening. So I immediately got in the clinch because I always rush in, and as soon as I clinched up, I knew something was different. They felt so strong. I was like, oh my God, this is a very strong old lady. What? So initially, I am in total panic mode. I feel their strength and I'm like, oh, I can't take them down, better pull guard. And then I work my sweep, I get the sweep and I feel a little more comfortable. And then eventually, you know, like maybe 30-40 seconds later, I get the tap with the Ezekiel choke. And I get off the mat, and I know I still have a second match with this person because it's a best 2 out of 3 bracket. We were the only 2 people in it, so we have to fight 2 to 3 times. So here we have the second match. I take a little different approach because I know now that this is a very strong individual, and I don't rush in. They get their grips, and I get yanked. I get yanked twice. And I'm like, this is so weird. But when they yank me, I kind of fall into a body lock. And I'm just so confused. And then they pull guard, I pass, and then I get a paper cutter choke. And then they tell the ref they didn't tap. When I originally posted this on TikTok, I received a lot of hate. And this was never about me winning or beating a trans opponent. This was about me giving a voice to other girls like Jaden and Adela who were scared in their matches. And I can't believe people actually think this is okay. If Cordelia had beaten one of these girls that day, she would have been fighting a 16-year-old biological female.
There's a difference between that. There's a difference between, being a young, impressionable girl and, the school's all of a sudden sprung this on you and there's a male athlete in your locker room. And you're speaking out against it. You're saying that this is not right, but you're still showing up to compete because you believe that's the right thing to do. This is what you've been doing all your life. And, you don't know what to do. You find yourself in this situation, in this unfortunate situation. We've heard about it with Riley Gaines, Paula Scallon, April Hutchinson, so many female athletes now who find themselves in this situation. And there are people who always say, don't compete, don't show up. And a lot of the time, it's not necessarily that straightforward. I do think the best course of action, is not to show up. But there are occasions where athletes, female athletes, find themselves in that situation through no fault of their own. However, there's that, but there's also female athletes who celebrate this, who show up with a smile on their face, who pose in photos with male athletes, pretending to be them, pretending to be women. These male athletes are destroying women's sports, but yet there are many female athletes who are perfectly happy to go along with it. And that's who Riley Gaines called out the other day. Over in Chicago, we keep hearing about the infamous duo, biological males competing in the cycling over there, ruining women's cycling in Chicago. The infamous duo, who are sometimes the infamous trio, because one of them is in a throuple with another male cyclist. Remember Austin Phillips? So one of them is in a relationship with Austin and a third person. It's a whole mess. Likewise, Austin Phillips is known as the athlete who pushed a female athlete off the track in the middle of the race. We know that Austin Phillips has been banned from the Belgian waffle ride in the females category. There's another category that has been opened especially for Austin, but Austin isn't happy about it. So this is who we're dealing with. So these women, these females, are perfectly happy that this duo continues to win medals, gold and silver, or 2 golds, depending on the type of race, at every competition. And technically, the fastest female cyclist in this division, over in Chicago, is perfectly happy to be denied not just a gold medal, a silver medal too, and stands there on the podium smiling and going along with it, as if this is a good thing, that this woman is being denied what is rightfully hers, and other women. We always ask ourselves, what must the woman who came second be thinking of this? What must the woman who came third be thinking of this? Or the woman who didn't even get a chance to stand on the podium because of the male athletes who are infringing upon women's categories? What must they be thinking? And we do see photos after photos, especially in the cycling, of women smiling, of women putting their hands up along with the male athletes as if they're the same. And we often ask why. Well, Riley Gaines apparently has had enough of this, and she called out one woman in particular. So let's take a look. Riley Gaines slammed an Illinois woman who finished in third behind 2 transgender competitors during a cycling race earlier this month, after she came to their defences amid criticism. Tessa Johnson and Evelyn Williamson, who were both born male, beat out all the opposition at the Illinois State Cyclocross Championships. Johnson and Williamson both came under fire for taking spots from biological women. So the woman who came in third, the biological female, Kristin Chalmers, decided to offer her support for Tessa and Evelyn, and even signed a pledge or some letter of support for the 2 male athletes. Apparently Chalmers was on NBC News saying that it's ridiculous to imply that her life has been ruined, that her sporting career has been ruined because of transgender athletes, and basically said that everything's fine, that she's perfectly happy competing with transgender athletes and, I guess, coming in third and being denied the gold and silver medal. She's perfectly happy with that. So she has signed, a letter of support for Tessa and Evelyn. Gaines, an Outkick contributor and host of Outkick's Gaines for Girls podcasts, said in a statement to Fox News Digital that Chalmers was a traitor to women. Why is it so often women applauding their own erasure? Chalmers may claim she's fine losing to men, but female athletes like her don't have the right to willingly surrender the integrity of competition for everyone, Gaines said. Very well said, I have to say. The majority of female athletes believe women deserve respect and fair competition. She is a traitor to ethical and fair sport, and she's a traitor to women. And this is nothing new. We see women like Megan Rapinoe, who on the way out decided to speak up about trans athletes in women's sports, showing her support. Easy to do that when you are at the end of your career, which ended abysmally, by the way, and decide to virtue signal on your way out when it's not going to affect you, when you don't have to compete against biological males or a team with a biological male. But as for Kristin, she's actually competing against these male athletes, pretending to be women. And she's okay with it, apparently. And she's speaking out for other women as if she's the voice of reason, as if she's the voice to represent us. And you're not. You're part of this crazy group of people who have bowed down to gender ideology, even though it's accelerating your own downfall. In the letter, Chalmers and other cyclists call the controversy surrounding the event manufactured. Okay. We refuse to be falsely presented as victims in a manufactured controversy driven to further alienate and marginalize those most vulnerable within our community. In service of rampant and harmful anti-LGBTQ+ legislation, the letter read, according to NBC, we speak for ourselves. Inclusion makes our sport and community stronger. Everyone is welcome here. Trans women are women. People can repeat these mantras all they want, but that doesn't make it true. It just means that you continue to repeat a lie that's never going to come into fruition. I don't know if you're trying to manifest something. I don't know what it is you're trying to achieve by continuing to perpetuate a lie with this trans women are women. If that was the case, they wouldn't have an unfair advantage. These male athletes clearly do. That's why we see them in first and second place every time. And even if we don't, even if they decide to relax and let a woman win for once, they're still male. Male and females are different. For that very reason, there are categories in sports. Discrimination or harassment of any kind on the basis of race, colour, religion, age, gender, sexual orientation, gender identification, or any other stupid idea someone comes up with to belittle others will not be tolerated at the CCC events and may result in disqualification and/or being asked to leave, the website reads. But again, no one has a problem with women being discriminated against. No one has a problem with women being disenfranchised, with women being excluded. Because you're saying that what they're going through, what they're dealing with, doesn't matter. The unfairness of it all doesn't matter. That's what you're saying. So Riley posted this on Twitter or X saying, women clapping like a trained seal for their own erasure. So someone said, feminism died the day they started pretending trans women were women. She's absolutely right. Someone says, she's correct. Any biological male taking part in women's sports is gender doping and should be treated the same as any other sports cheat. This is clearly cheating. If a female was to take testosterone, that would be classed as doping. But when a biological male who clearly has more testosterone, more muscle mass, height, more strength, more speed, all of those advantages over females, apparently that's okay because they identify as a woman. And apparently they are women. They say they're a woman, they're a woman. You can see in poll after poll that women are far more likely to favour and accept men identifying as women and competing in women's sports. Until that number changes among women, this will continue. They are the negatively affected group here. Wow. Are the majority of women in favour of this? I'd be curious to know that. If women are on board with this, that means women are going to have to learn the hard way. Meaning we're going to have to see our sports completely destroyed, completely erased before we come to our senses. And I would hate for that to happen. I like to think that majority of people are exercising their common sense and saying that this is not right. I do like to think that. So I'm gonna look and see if that's the case. I really hope it's not. That the majority of women are for this. Let me know in the comments what you think. So it is always disappointing to hear of female athletes supporting this whole thing. It always is disappointing. And not much shocks me anymore, of course, but you do always look at the whole situation and think, really? You're okay with this? And again, I guess it makes them feel that they're more inclusive. It makes them feel that they're more virtuous. And this is what happens when people aren't in touch with reality. They don't want to face the reality of the situation. If those female athletes were to take a look at their career and ask themselves, how would their career have been different if they didn't have to compete against male athletes? Many of them would see more gold medals, more prize money, more opportunities opening up. That's how their careers would look if they didn't have to compete against male athletes. So if you're saying that that's okay to be denied all those things, you're not for women. If you're saying that that's okay, because women have to sacrifice what's rightfully theirs to please a biological male who wants to identify as them. It's the job of women to appease male athletes who want to compete in women's sports. That's what she's saying. And they have to sacrifice themselves, sacrifice their sports, sacrifice their careers, their scholarships, their opportunities, their accolades, forgo all of that just to please a biological male who wants to identify as a woman. And then to say that they are women is so insulting, because that's all it takes, right? For a male whose word is so important, all he has to do is to declare that he is a woman. When women complain and say that they are not on board with this and say that we're uncomfortable with being in the locker room with a male, we don't like seeing male genitalia in our women's locker room. When they say all these things, their words are ignored. But all a male has to do is declare. Henceforth, I declare I am a woman. That's all it takes. And apparently that means they are women. That's never going to happen. How can a male suddenly be a woman because they say so? And this is what she's going along with. And she's standing on the podium smiling with them, signing letters of support and criticizing women for simply expecting fair treatment. That's what she's criticizing. And she's basically saying, look at me. I'm so inclusive. I'm so tolerant. But look at these women. Throwing them under the bus, essentially. And you're perfectly happy to do that as long as you can look great for 2 minutes and get a pat on the back by the trans activists, by the people who are going along with gender ideology. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.